Hello, once again. This is Marshall coming to you more awake for the second video of today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. In light of the video which I just posted earlier today, which dealt with the statues being torn down and such other things, I want to deal with something else that I mentioned on the tail end of that, mainly uh, the black experience in America and how it relates to today. Why? Because the question on so many people's minds, especially in the white society, and even in the black society and other societies, because just because your skin color is black doesn't mean that your experience is the same. Some people, black, have had absolutely wonderful experiences and only wonderful experiences almost exclusively in this country and cannot familiarize with other blacks. Likewise, even as many whites cannot familiarize with many whites in this country, and every other so-called race goes through the same thing. So I want to be able to clarify and express some things so that you can understand a more in-depth perspective of what I'm trying to relate to you concerning the white matrix. Now, I have a little story to tell you, and please follow me on this. There is out in the country, there's, let's give them different names here, a 90-year-old woman. She is a great grandmother. Her children generally come over because she's at the end of her life. Her children, her grandchildren, her great grandchildren come over and they visit her as often as possible. Now, Nana, as many would call her, has some stereotypical things known about her. Nana, since for 30 years or more, has been known to be one who sits on the porch in her rocking chair. And she rocks on that rocking chair. And she does the same things that many of us do. She brings out the glass of lemonade and she rocks. And she may sing an old Negro here spiritual or something, or she may do the same things, maybe eat something or fall asleep in that rocking chair. So Nana has built a routine over many years that she does these things. Now the children, most of them get along with her and they love her, but they also recognize that Nana in some ways is unreachable. And if you examine the relationships of her two sons and her two daughters, they kind of have the same kind of thing where they just seem a little unreachable in their relationships. They're all married, they all have children, and even grandchildren themselves. But there is an intimacy level that is lacking. There is a guardianship that's lacking in some ways, and it's under the surface and barely discernible sometimes. And sometimes it's very obvious that there is a problem there. Now, like in many households around the world, and not just America, but to concentrate on America, the children, the grandchildren, and the great grandchildren come over, and they love their Nana. And I like to come out there and grab Nana's legs and crawl up on her. And they grab her legs and, the small ones and they look up to her and they smile, and sometimes she'll smile down, may even say a couple nice, comfortable words to them, you know, may even want to give them a kiss. And then once in a while, she may allow one of the small ones to kind of crawl up in her lap and just fall asleep as she looks out across the parking lot or wherever she's at or across the field, and she continues to rock in her chair of her lemonade. But some of the older children, when they sit with her or talk to her, may want to ask her questions. And sometimes they ask her questions. And they say, Nana, how was it when you were young? What kind of Barbie dolls did you have? What kind of toys did you play with, Nana? Where did you go, Nana? Now, Nana may say, as much as she's able to divulge to each individual child, oh, well, when I was young, I didn't have toys. I didn't have uh, a Barbie doll. They didn't make them. Or, you know, I had this stick. We couldn't afford it. So we had this stick and we had this little thing we made. And my mom made a little something out of this dress. And this was my doll. And the children, of course, will enjoy hearing these stories, but a little confused sometimes. But they just enjoy their Nana and want to relate to her. So they say these things to her, and just like little children, the wonderful little children would do. But Nana is always unreachable. Now, this kind of aloftness, if you will, goes down throughout the bloodlines because even the grandchildren and children have that when they grow up, and they're not quite sure what it is that they have. I mean, most of them don't even diagnose there's anything wrong with it. It's normal. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, they still give hugs and go to family picnics and laugh and drink and, do line dances just like everyone else. But under the surface, there's that elephant in the room that's so big that you really have to walk around it every single time you see it. And eventually, you get to the point where you say, it really isn't there, no matter how big it is. Now, I know that pretty much doesn't explain to you many things of the white matrix, but I'm getting to that. Now, if that happened right today, right now, that would mean that 90-year-old woman was born in 1930. As many of you know, that'd be 1 year after the collapse of the stock market, a major stock market in America, and proceeded to bring forth something we call the Great Depression in America. It was a financial depression, supposedly, only in America during that time period, of course. Now, the point I'm trying to get to is at 90 years old, I'm sure she's seen many things. Now, this Nana, however, the story would not be so significant if it wasn't for the race or the color of this Nana. This Nana is, as you might guess, was a woman of color. Now, if this was a white family, generally speaking, you could probably have other ways if you wanted to diagnose, if you thought it was a problem, of course, of what Nana's problem was. Maybe you would say she lost her dad during World War One, was raised up in a tough time, bad economical time, or lost someone during World War Two, or the Korea War, or Vietnam War, or some personal tragedy, like she was actually raped or something. That's what you would say if it was a white person, and understood. She would have every reason to be the person she is from such tragic events as all of us should be affected. But I'm only going through this example because the person I'm speaking about is a black woman or a woman of color. Well, let's call her that. Because the question, is when I started before, was why is it that when whites hear reparations and such other things from the lips of people in America regarding the black race, or I should say, to clarify, the descendants of the black slaves in this country, that they instantaneously say, it's been so long a time ago. Why does that affect you? And how does that affect you? May I share something with you? If many of you are in America, you're familiar in small part or in large part with a clinic called the Mayo Clinic. The Mayo Clinic has a description and definition of what it is to have PTSD. Now, as we have had so many service members come back into this country and been diagnosed with PTSD, you're probably more familiar with it happening with the service members, military service members, more than anyone else. But the truth is, the military members would be by far the minority of those with PTSD than those who are people of color. And so let me define for you, or let's let Mayo Clinic define for you what the symptoms are of PTSD. Now, according to the Mayo Clinic, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is a mental health condition that's triggered by a terrifying event, either experiencing it or witnessing it. Symptoms may include flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety, as well as uncontrollable thoughts about the event. Most people who go through traumatic events may have temporary difficulty adjusting and coping, but with time and good self-care, they usually get better. If the symptoms get worse, last for months or even years, and interfere with your day-to-day function, you may have PTSD. Getting effective treatment after PTSD symptoms develop can be critical to reduce symptoms and improve function. Let me read something else that they wrote about the symptoms. Post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms may start within 1 month of a traumatic event, but sometimes symptoms may not appear until years after the event. These symptoms cause significant problems in social or work situations and in relationships. They can also interfere with your ability to go about your normal daily tasks. PTS symptoms are generally grouped into four types: intrusive memories, avoidance, negative changes in thinking and mood, and changes in physical and emotional reactions. Symptoms can vary over time or vary from person to person. Now, the reason why I wrote all of that, rather read all of that, forgive me, is because I wanted the professionals. I wanted you to hear from the professionals. Those same ones you send your dad, mom, sister, brother, friend, cousin, aunt, uncle, etc., to for diagnosis as well as treatment. But let's get back to Nana. Nana lived through, as a black woman, Great Depression. She lived through the tail ends of slavery. She lived through Jim Crow. She lived through sharecropping. She lived through so many things that even to this day, at 9 years old, she didn't know that Barbie dolls were back then that she could have gotten. Because a society so opposite of hers existed. What's more frightening is that Nana never knew who her mother was. You see, because Nana was taken away from her mother at 5 because her mother was still a slave on a plantation. And Nana's mother didn't know her mother because they were also sold or taken away from a plantation that they do not even remember where. And they cannot go back to their great Nana's mother. Nana cannot go back to her mother and grandmother and ask that question, how was it in your time, mother? What did you do, mother? You see, in this country, people like to complain about people of color and their reactions and responses to a lot of things. And I'm telling you that many, if not most, members of people who have gone through the experience of having a Nana, and those before her, and those who are affected by her, even the great grandchildren, do not know that Nana doesn't even know who her mother was or remember her because she was sold and even raped. They don't know that Nana is suffering. And even Nana may not even recognize she's suffering through PTSD, which is why she develops that calming effect of sitting on her rocking chair and rocking back and forth and drinking that lemonade to just give her a sense of peace. Because the violence and the anger and the depression that's underneath, the PTSD, she doesn't want it to manifest. And Nana, having not known her mother, but knowing that everyone in her life that she's been intimate with, that she wanted a deeper intimacy with, was suddenly taken away from her in one way or the other. That Nana had 4 half brothers out of a family of 12. And those 4 were all lynched because they were reported to be interested in a white woman. And so Nana only knows the sense of loss and to not get too close to something or someone because to do so would almost risk or even force the hand that she would be disappointed again to ever see that person again. Rational or irrational, that was her reality, and it carries on to this day because it is undiagnosed or unacceptable PTSD, and there's no treatment that she has had the opportunity or been willing to go through. So, when those who are especially and not only of the white community, or not, especially of those of the white matrix, okay, ask why are black people so angry? Get over it, and such other comments. We can still see our Nana. We still love our Nana, just like you love your Nana. And whether you visit her in her home or visit her in a hospice or some other location, you bring the kids in. Let's go visit Nana. I want you to experience the joy and the love we have for Nana. And we can look immediately to our Nana and her history that she tries so hard for us to not to be to know. So because she doesn't want to bring it up because it may make her angry, and she doesn't want know what's gonna the uncontrollable rage or whatever she may get. So she's afraid of that. So she limits what she talks about that in her experience. But we know it. The children, we get it. And then we see time after time after time where something today is taken away from us. Someone today is taken away from us. And today the subject matter is about a George Floyd or Ghana or I forget the name, forgive me of the name of the nurse who was actually shot in her own home for no reason by cops or some other thing. And it triggers something in a person with PTSD. And you get a response or you get a reaction. Now, there was a army sniper years ago who came back. His last name was Kyle. I think his name was Chris Kyle. And he came back and he recognized the PTSD himself and he uh, worked on that. But he also opened up a place for people who have PTSD. Unfortunately for Chris Kyle, he brought back one whom he helped and started an organization for to help deal with that PTSD. But that person whom he brought back and he did everything he can to help actually murdered Chris Kyle. The same person who was receiving sacrificial help from someone murdered that person. Not because they were rational, not because the plan was well thought out, not because they were angry with the person or had some premeditated idea of what they planned to do, but because they had PTSD. They were traumatized on events that affected them, and it was undealt with. And even though it was trying to be dealt with, the end result was tragedy for both of those young men. One who lost his life in some God forbidden country because of tyranny in his country, in this superiority context of wanting to rule the world and the world's resources through evil government means, and one at the end of a bullet of someone he was doing his best to help. The point I'm trying to make in this sober video, for me and for you, is that when you ask the question about black people, why are they so angry? Maybe you should look at it as a PTSD situation. Maybe not be so critical, and maybe ask with an open heart and open mind and say, I don't understand what you're doing. I don't know why you want to tear down a statue. But Nana knows. Nana just doesn't want to see or to disclose the reasons why she wants to tear down that statue. You see, because the slave plantation in which Nana's mother came from was the very statue that was just torn down of that person. You see, Nana's enslaver, rapist, person selling, human trafficking person who did that to her, her life, her family, and is the author of her PTSD and many others, is considered a hero, and statues are erected on behalf of those same people who victimized her. How would that make you react? Well, according to the professionals, Mayo Clinic, you may suppress it for a while. It can be months, it can be years even. But when that cat is let out of the bag to coin a phrase, what is it going to manifest as? Do you think it'll manifest in Nana, that rocking chair, and that lemonade because the option is otherwise it's going to be something I do not want to come out of me? You see, I have heard this spoken twice, and I think that any person who's involved in slave trade and their descendants should really think about this next thing I'm about to say. Please think about what I'm saying. Those people should be very glad that black people are seeking justice and not revenge. Think about that for a moment. We're seeking justice. Now, is every black person seeking justice? Of course not. Should every black person seek justice? Yes. But when you're told that when you're seeking justice all the time, you're just complainers. Get over it. Well, other people have done it. It happened to us in England or some other deflecting way. And add to the fact that these people have PTSD. The miracle is that they have not sought revenge and that they're not uncontrollable, that they have enough reserve to say, rather than let the beast out of the bag, I'm going to sit in my rocking chair and drink my lemonade and calm myself, not react and respond in a way which would deem me out of control. Now, again, I don't speak on behalf of all black people. I don't presume to. I think we should all be viewed as individuals and individuals alone. But since we use the general topic of races like white, black, and such other things, I try to be clear on who exactly the group I'm talking about. I'm certainly not talking about all whites. I believe that less than even half of the people in this country had anything at this time, that's in this country at this time, I should say, had ever, in any way possible whatsoever, had anything to do with Nana's predicament. You didn't view it, you have no history of it. You came here at a point in the country that slavery in its known form had ended, as well as you may even be descendants of the great Quakers who actually advocated for people of color. You may be the heroes that of the white race who made it possible for there to be progress to even to this point. And to you, I thank you as I've thanked you many times. And so many others. So many others. I'm not downplaying your great benefit. I'm only speaking to a great mass amount and not to everyone. But for the target audience in which I'm speaking about, perhaps it is time for you to understand and hear the voices of a people who need your help, that are crying out and saying, you know what? Nana was wrong, and I want justice for Nana. Because she's never gotten it, and her mother's never gotten it, and her mother's mother never gotten it, and the mother's got never gotten it. On down the line. And we want justice for Nana. We want to be able to celebrate Nana's 90th birthday uh, or 91st birthday, and Nana finally break out of that shell that she's in. And the kids can hear the real horrors also, as well as the good memories that Nana wants to talk about. Because we want to know all of it. We want to cry with her. We want to laugh with her. We want to give her that gift that has eluded her. Maybe go through the public records and find for her who her mother was, how her mother lived, and where's her real heritage. Does she have any descendants that were not slaves or that were sold as slaves that she never met or heard of or known about? We want a solution to the problem. Just like everybody wants one for their Nana. So I want you to just at least have something to think about on this. People of color are just people. In the same way any society can get PTSD, any people can get PTSD. People of color not only can but do have it in America in a tremendous form. And so Just like any family member or some other thing, it's not your race that says you're certainly going to react or respond to a situation. You can go to a certain family of five and you can tell them the same tragic event and they may all react differently. One may react violently, completely violently. One may react with absolute shock. One may go into a shell and start drinking and ruin their lives. One may form an advocacy group to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. One may be the strength one and, make sure that all the funeral things are taken care of and not even cry at the funeral because they don't want people to believe that they're victims, etc., etc. So blacks are not going to react or respond the same. We're all different. We're individuals. Not just your skin color does not mean that you're going to react or respond to something. You, the person, decides whether you're going to react and how you're going to react or respond to something. And you should be judged on that merit alone. So should I. So should the ones you call blacks. So should the ones you call whites and Europeans and Russians and down the line. Judge us as individuals and as people. But when we cry out and say we want justice or there will be no peace, if you open up your eyes and your heart and your soul, maybe you'll hear the real message that they're really trying to tell you. That if we don't get justice for Nana will not have any peace. That if we don't get justice for Nana and George Floyd and such other people, they will never have any peace. If we don't get justice for anyone, we, no matter what your race is, will never have any peace for ourselves. Can anyone deny that people should ask and even demand peace for themselves? Well, I'm going to say a mantra that many have repeated, and I hope you understand what I mean by when I say it, because I just explained it. No justice, no peace. And let's not make this about anything but PTSD. Thank you again for allowing me to speak to you. Thank you again. I pray for you and your families. I pray that peace that whether you've given it or you've taken it away from someone else, I still pray that for you. Because we're not benefited by anyone not having peace. We all benefit from some having peace. But we'd be a better people if we all have peace. Till our next video, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for giving me a chance to speak with you today and bearing with me today. Have a wonderful day.